And then I have a non-candidate you're going to want to hear from. I want to bring a lady who has stood up with fire and passion and commitment long before it was popular to raise these issues. And she has worked with us. We talk more often than probably anybody because she lives this, she breathes this, whether she was running or not. I bring to you 2020 presidential candidate, Senator from Massachusetts, Senator Elizabeth Warren.
The National Action Network and people in this room have been on the front lines of the fight for social, racial, and economic justice. You have challenged our leaders, Democrats and Republicans, to make this country live up to its best values, and you have made real progress. I am here today because as we speak, Donald Trump and the Republicans in Congress are doing everything within their power to normalize hatred, racism, and bigotry. Public conversation has gotten nastier. Voter suppression routinely targets people of color. Hate crimes are on the rise. We come to this moment at a time when the stakes are beyond high, when the very soul of our nation is in jeopardy, when we face the fight of our lives, and with so much on the line, there is no place I would rather be than standing shoulder to shoulder right here with you. Thank you. You know, for me, this fight is personal. I grew up out in Oklahoma on the ragged edges of the middle class. My family was a paycheck-to-paycheck family. My daddy ended up as a janitor. My mama worked a minimum wage job at Sears. I have 3 older brothers. They all headed off to the military. That was their ticket to America's middle class. Now, me, I was the late in life baby. I was known as the surprise. And I have had wondering since I was in 2nd grade. I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for America's public school teachers? I knew what I wanted. And just so you all know, I worked on this early. I used to line my dogs up to teach them. I was tough but fair. Always there. But you know, like a lot of folks, I did not live my life in a straight line. My folks didn't have any money for college, but I got a scholarship. Then at 19, I fell in love. I dropped out of school, got married, first husband, took a job answering phones, and like my mother had done. And I thought that would be my life, that I would never get a chance to be a teacher. And then I found a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And I made it. So I became a special needs teacher, blessed because I've lived my dream. I am filled with gratitude. I have lived opportunity. And I am in this fight because I believe in opportunity, not just for those born into privilege. I believe in opportunity for every single one of our children. Yeah. And today, I want to talk about how opportunity gets snuffed down, how it gets taken away, and how we, you and me, how we can expand opportunity for people all across this country. There's a lot we can do, but I just want to focus on one point so we have a chance to get specific about this. Teaching special needs kids is a calling, but I finished the first year visibly pregnant, and back in those days, it meant you didn't get invited back. That's how it was. So there I was at home with a baby, and I got this idea, a crazy idea, that I would go to law school. So I got everything together. It took me a year. I'd take the tests, I'd do the applications, get it all together. And I get right down to the end. We're just a few days before classes start. And I just need one thing left, daycare. But hey, how hard could that be? I searched everywhere. The places were wrong, or the prices were high, or the waiting list was a mile long. And finally, we're down to, it's just less than a week before classes start, and I found a good place that we could afford. There was only one problem. They only took children who were dependably potty trained. I had a not quite 2-year-old, and just a few days left. I stand before you today, courtesy of 3 bags of M&Ms and a cooperative toddler. You know, otherwise I wouldn't be here. But here's the thing. Childcare never stopped being an issue. It was an ever-present weight that I carried on my shoulders every single day, and it never let up. Now, eventually, I graduated from law school, hugely pregnant with baby number 2. You may detect a pattern here. But when I got my first real teaching job at law school in Houston, I was beyond excited. I loved teaching, and I would do anything it took to make it work. Taking care of the little ones, cooking and cleaning, doing laundry at 11 o'clock at night. It was hard, but I could do hard. It was exhausting, but I could do exhausting. The thing that got me down? Childcare. One memory is still burned into my brain. Going in late in the afternoon to pick up Alex, he was the younger one, from daycare. And there he was, dirty face, miserable in a soggy diaper. I try to lay him down to change him. He starts kicking and screaming. Finally, I picked him up and headed to the car. He kicked and screamed louder and louder, and I dropped things, and I'm getting more upset. And I stood there in the parking lot with baby snot and pee on my clothes, unable to open the car door, completely overwhelmed. In the previous few months, we had tried it all. A babysitter, a neighbor with kids, a daycare center, another daycare center, and everything for one reason or another had fallen apart. So one night, I've been teaching for just a little while, I'm still in that first year. I put both kids to bed, and my 78-year-old Aunt B called long distance from Oklahoma to see how I was doing. I said, fine. And then with no warning, I started to cry. I just couldn't hold it together anymore. I blurted it out. I told Aunt B I was going to quit my job. I hadn't thought about it, but everything came crashing down and the words just came tumbling out. I cried, I sobbed, I heaved. Finally, I blew my nose and I got a drink of water. And then Aunt B said the 11 words that changed my life forever. I can't come tomorrow, but I can come on Thursday. And 2 days later, she arrived with 7 suitcases and a Pekingese named Buddy and stayed for 16 years. That story tells a basic truth. Nobody makes it on their own. And it tells a second basic truth. Without childcare, millions and millions of families simply won't make it at all. Now, if every working mom in the country had an Aunt B, we'd all be good. But that's not the case. And I know how lucky I was to have my Aunt B save the day. But think about the moms in America who don't have an Aunt B. Women working day and night, constantly worried about their children. Are they safe? Are they happy? Are they getting a first-rate educational chance that's going to give them a good start in school? Those questions gnaw on any mom, but they particularly gnaw on the moms who don't have great child care. High-quality child care is out of reach for way too many families in this country. But it is even further out of reach for African-American families struggling to make ends meet. In more than half the states in America, 1 year of child care costs more than a year of in-state tuition at a public university. Think about that. On average, child care for one child costs the median African-American household 22% of their income. 22%. Try building a budget around that. The numbers tell the story. Black women are more likely to be breadwinners for their family, are more likely to work more, are more likely to get paid less, and are the least likely to be able to afford decent child care. And this is not just an accident of statistics. It is the legacy of decades of systemic discrimination against Black women. Discrimination in pay, discrimination in housing, discrimination in finance, discrimination in health care. You pile all that together, then make high-quality child care expensive and hard to find, and it is little wonder that child care, or the lack of good child care, holds back one generation after another in communities of color. This is just plain wrong. We are the richest country in the history of the planet. Access to high-quality child care and education during the early stages of a child's life should not be a privilege reserved for the children of the rich. It should be a right for every single child in America. And that's why I'm proposing a big structural change. Universal child care and early education for all our babies. Now, I know that Reverend Sharpton takes this platform seriously. This is not the place for talk. This is the place for action. A real plan that we could pass into law. So I want to tell you how this plan works. For starters, we expand our network of locally licensed child care centers, preschool centers, and in-home child care options. The federal government already provides child care for all military families, and we have 900,000 kids in top-notch Head Start programs, so we have something to build on. Right now, well-to-do parents are sending their 5-year-olds, their 4-year-olds, their 3-year-olds to preschool, where they get ready for what's coming. My proposal makes that same option available, not just to rich kids, but to every kid in America. Getting smarter should not be reserved for the children of the privileged. Part 2, my plan pays child care workers like the professionals they are. More training, higher standards, and much better pay. These child care workers are disproportionately disproportionately black and brown women, and they have been undervalued and underpaid for far too long. Child care workers are educators, not babysitters, and they deserve a living wage. My plan is not only possible, but it's free for millions of children and low-cost poor families with higher incomes. So I just want you to think about for a second what this could mean for black families and for America. People who today are paying more than $1,000 a month could get the highest quality child care and pay nothing. That would be life-changing for millions of mothers and fathers all around this country. And here's the fun part. We already know how to pay for it. All we have to do is make the ultra-wealthy pay their fair share. I call it the ultra-millionaires tax. It requires households with a net worth of $50 million or more to pay a 2% tax, 2%. And that one change would bring in all the money we need to completely cover the cost of universal child care and early education for all our babies and still have $2 trillion left over. Yeah, that's what you can do. And everyone who says to me, it's just too hard, here's what I know for sure. Yeah, it's not easy to make big changes, but you don't get what you don't fight for. Big structural change is worth fighting for. These are the kinds of big structural changes that I would make as president. Changes that would make opportunity available not just to the wealthy and the well-connected, but make opportunity available to everyone in this country. Now, last month when I was in Memphis, I met LaTanya, a young mother, who told me about what it had been like when she was going to college. She had struggled with child care over and over, and she talked about the years in which she was often forced to choose between letting her young son babysit his even younger siblings or staying home from class and giving up on her dream to build a future. And like millions of black women in America, LaTanya faced the tough odds. She made do with what she had, and she came out on top. Today she has an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree. But here's the kicker in the story. Even with all her diplomas, all the progress she has made, child care is still dragging her back. Her youngest is 5 years old. He loves his school, but it costs $400 a month. And LaTanya said she just can't afford it. The cost still holds her back in taking on the better job that she wants to take on. And here's the question. How many women have the same story? How many parents have been sidelined today because they can't get decent care for their children? And how many kids weren't ready for kindergarten? How many were parked in front of a television set for hours on end? How many got a worse start in school because their moms couldn't afford pre-K or couldn't send them to the places with small classes and specialized teachers that all the wealthy folks send their kids to? How many of our kids didn't make it in America because America didn't invest in them? And how many good, talented, dedicated preschool teachers and child care workers gave up because the pay was worse than working at McDonald's? Again, all because America wouldn't invest in our kids. So I see this as a moment when it comes to us, and we can make change, big change in this country. Change for ourselves and change for our children. Yes, We need universal child care. But getting child care passed is a struggle because the people in Congress and the White House frankly think they can ignore what voters want. They plan to keep enough people away from the polls that they can stay in power. They are working hard to shut down our democracy. Just last year, the Republicans in North Carolina's 9th Congressional District threw enough votes in the trash to rig an election. Massive voter suppression prevented Stacey Abrams from becoming the rightful governor of Georgia. They'll fight anyone who tries to stand up and push back. They'll do whatever it takes to stop a full and fair count because they know that there's more that unites us than divides us. They know that a durable majority of Americans believe in the promise of America. And they know that if all the votes are counted, we will win every time. So what's our job? Our job is to fight back. We need a constitutional amendment establishing a nationally recognized right to vote and a right to get that vote counted. And I'm going to tell you something else too. I'm not running for president just to talk about making real structural change. I'm serious about getting it done. And part of getting it done means waking up to the reality of the United States Senate. Last year, the Senate passed a bill that would make lynching a federal crime. Last year, 2018. Do you know when the first bill to make lynching a federal crime was introduced? 1918. 100 years ago. And it nearly became the law back then. It passed the House in 1922, but it got killed in the Senate by a filibuster. And then it got killed again, and again, and again. More than 200 times. An entire century of obstruction because a small group of racists stopped this entire nation from doing what is right. For generations, the filibuster was used as a tool to block progress on racial justice. And in recent years, it's been used by the far right as a tool to block progress on everything. I've only served one term in the Senate, but I've seen what's happened. We all saw what they did to President Obama. I've watched the Republicans abuse the rules when they're out of power and then turn around and blow off the rules when they're in power. We saw it happen again just this week. Republicans spent years exploiting the rules to slow down or block President Obama's mainstream judges and executive nominees. But now that they're in power, they are unilaterally changing those rules to speed them up and run through President Trump's extremist nominees. So let me be as clear as I can about this. When Democrats next have power, we should be bold. We are done with two sets of rules, one for Republicans and one for the Democrats. And that means when the Democrats have the White House again, if Mitch McConnell tries to do what he did to President Obama and put small-minded partisanship ahead of solving the massive problems in this country, then we should get rid of the powerful, and everyone else falls further behind. We can't sit around for 100 years while climate change destroys this planet. We can't sit around for 100 years while corruption pervades every nook and cranny of Washington. And we can't sit around for another 100 years while too much of a child's fate in life still rests on the color of their skin. Enough with that. When we win this election, we will make the changes that we need to make in this country. We come to this fight for childcare and for so much more. We come to this fight to build an America of our best values. And none of this will be easy. In fact, people will tell us to quit now. It's just too hard. But you don't get what you don't fight for. And yes, we can tax the billionaires. Come on. We can. This is possible. And yes, we can provide universal child care and pre-K for all of our babies. And yes, we can ensure that every citizen gets to vote and that vote gets counted. And yes, we can become an America where the government represents the will of the people, all of the people. We can do this. Yeah, it'll be hard, but this is our moment in history. This is our chance. This is when we are called to make bold change. This is our time to dream big, to fight hard, and to win. Thank you.
I'm going to ask you two questions. I asked all of the candidates. One, if you are the next president, as you know, we have been very much involved in criminal justice reform, mass incarceration, and police accountability. This president has stopped consent decrees where there has been a consistent pattern of police abuse. And he has stopped the commutation that President Obama started on unfair long sentences. If you are elected president, would you reinstitute and reenact a police review by the Justice Department, including consent decrees where necessary? And would you deal with mass incarceration in terms of how it has been practiced coming out of the 90s?
So, yes, I will. And I will lead the fight for criminal justice reform. You know, we have a criminal justice system right now that is pervaded with the problems of race. And no one wants to talk about this other than you, Reverend Al, and a lot of the good folks in this room. But just consider what every study shows. For the exact same crimes, multiple studies show blacks are more likely to be arrested than whites. They're more likely to be arraigned than whites. They are more likely to be taken to trial than whites. They are more likely to be wrongfully convicted than whites, and they are more likely to receive harsher sentences. We need criminal justice reform front to back.
Last thing, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee has a bill in the House calling for a commission on reparations and study on how to do it. If you are elected president and such a bill was passed, would you sign the bill for reparations?
Yes, I would. I already support that bill.
Senator Elizabeth Warren. Y'all get me some James Brown music, because I want to do something different here. There has been a debate about climate change and about the move to deal with the environmental concerns of this nation. And people have asked me, what do blacks have to do with that? We are disproportionately in the communities that get the most poisonous air, the most poisonous water. Look at Flint, Michigan, Reverend Charles Williams, who heads our Michigan chapter. The environmental movement is not a white movement, it is a right movement, and blacks are part of it. When we talk about economic reform, problem blacks have had, we could not get access to capital. We're having a big discussion this afternoon on business and pension funds, and how even our wealthy blacks are locked out because of race. But one young lady has stood up on this and has brought attention there. I've met with her. I feel a passion and a sincerity. This president tried to disparage her, calling her bartender. I never met a bartender that took babies out of their mother's arms at the border of Mexico. I never met a bartender that insulted people's nations, calling them S-nations. I never met a bartender that tried to cut Medicare, Medicaid, and affordable health care. I'd rather have somebody that serves at a bar to feed their family and do the right thing than have somebody sitting up in gilded penthouses that try to figure out how to hurt people. I bring you our little sister who went from being a bartender, serving customers, to a congresswoman, serving the people. Sister Congresswoman Alexandria
organizing looks like. This is what building power looks like. This is what changing the country looks like. It's when we choose to show up and occupy the room and talk about the things that matter most, talking about our future. You know, Reverend, you bring up a funny anecdote, and I'm proud to be a bartender. Ain't nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working retail, folding clothes for other people to buy. There is nothing wrong with preparing the food that your neighbors will eat. There is nothing wrong with driving the buses that take your family to work. There is nothing wrong with being a working person in the United States of America, and there is everything dignified about it. In fact, I'm encouraged when people remind the country of my past, not because of anything about my story, but because it communicates that if I could work in a restaurant and become a member of the United States Congress, so can you. So can you. And so what we are fighting for are the policies that are concentrated in working people and communities of color and the historically disenfranchised to make that more possible in America, to make us be a nation that keeps its promise and lives up to the words in our founding charter. So I want to thank you all again for joining us here today. And I think it's a very important morning, because with our work, and if we we've never fought before, then it is entirely possible that we just listened to someone who will be the next president of the United States. I was reflecting last night on what I kind of wanted to share with you all today, and I'm again so grateful and thankful for the opportunity to be here. And so as a result, I was nervous, because this is a big deal. And, you know, last night, yesterday, April 4th, marked the 51st anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And I found myself reflecting on this deeply, because it was in studying King as a young person that truly launched me to form a worldview that I have today. And I find so much of this present moment to really be a revival and a picking up of where King left off. That is what this moment is all about. But for a figure that was so widely lauded and is so widely commended in our history, so much about King's legacy is hidden in plain sight. So much of what he did is not discussed in our schoolrooms. And we simply think that we knocked on a door and asked for the right to vote and got it. But we all know that that's not what happened. Moreover, April 4th, 1968, Dr. King was taken from us at just 39 years old. He was taken too soon. And as his daughter, Bernice King, reminded the world yesterday, his life was robbed by hatred, white supremacy, racism, apathy, opposition to economic justice, and gun violence. But what does taken too soon mean? Because it doesn't just refer to Dr. King's age. It means that he was just getting started. It means that his critical role in passing the Civil Rights Act was just step one. And in fact, just 7 days after his assassination, Congress and the President signed a housing bill that was a direct honor of his legacy for economic, social, and racial justice. We know around the time of King's death that he was organizing around economic justice. The Civil Rights Act was passed, and we were moving into our next chapter as a nation. So he was organizing around economic justice. In fact, his To the Mountaintop speech the night before his passing was around laborers and unionized workers. He was imagining an America beyond Vietnam. He was speaking to the ideals that all labor has dignity, all while educating our country about our own history, and that the forces of bigotry and racism are not separate or particularly different from the fight for economic dignity. They are inextricable from it. Not only because racial injustice exacts itself economically, as we saw in 2008 when Black Americans faced a disproportionate burden of subprime loans. We don't just see it exact environmentally, as we saw with children drinking poisoned water in Flint, or in my own backyard, children breathing dirty air in the South Bronx. But also, bigotry, sexism, xenophobia are the easiest ways to avoid and divide substantive conversations of classism. Injustice of any kind is a loose thread on the fabric of society just waiting to catch. And it will catch if we do not address racism, if we do not address the wealth gap, the racial wealth gap, if we do not address mass incarceration, if we do not address the disproportion of mental health care within our communities, if we do not address the injustices of our immigration system, if we do not address the injustices of education inequity, these are all loose threads just waiting to catch on society. And that is why, without addressing it, any policy, economic, environmental, healthcare, or otherwise, is just waiting to unravel. It is built on a house of cards. It is temporary. white supremacy, whether it is the rollback of consumer protections by this administration, whether it is the agenda of Betsy DeVos. What we need to do in radically deep problems is propose radically visionary solutions. Because radical doesn't mean crazy. Radical means addressing the root, addressing the rot. And that is why we have proposed a Green New Deal for the future of America. That is why within that legislation, and rather within that resolution, we do not shy away from bold conversations of healthcare, housing, and education as human rights, of living wages and dignified work, of policy that isn't just drafted with the next election in mind, but also with the next generation in mind. That is the moral, political, and economic underpinning of making bold investments and dignified jobs, because that is the necessary plan to fix the pipes in Flint and clean the air in the South Bronx, and to create unionized energy jobs for transitioning workers in Appalachia and West Virginia, for single-payer health care and Medicare for all, and tuition-free public colleges and universities to prepare our nation for the future, and for the end to mass incarceration, the war on drugs, examining and pursuing an agenda of reparations, and fixing the opioid crisis too. Because one of the things that King taught us is that our destinies are linked and tied, and that is just a part of American philosophy as anything else.
We'll change batteries and I can charge.
Because ultimately, ending injustice is about ending the root causes of despair. And in the words of King, true peace is not merely the absence of tension, it is the presence of justice. Thank you all for
Give them a big hand. Let me say, we're going to break down building access. We're going to Empire 2. I'm going to be in there to start that access to capital, where we're going to talk about how we democratize a lot of this, that how Congresswoman just spoke to. The ministers are going to the ministers' luncheon right here. Jeff Johnson's going to take over. Let us build this into action, not just theory. You heard from 4 presidential candidates, there'll be 3 more today. Now, I'm getting ready to escort on out. It's not about selfie with AOC. She can't take care of business, so she's not being rude. I'm pushing her out so she can get on back to her constituents. So don't ask her. Make me the bad guy. I know how it goes. Lady woke me up on the plane the other night. Said, "Gotta take a picture." I said, "Man, we gonna land together. Can you wait?" So I know how y'all can be. So let us take out. Thank you, and let's break up.